Support for the production of Making a Chef comes from Methodist Senior Services, serving older adults with 12 campuses across the state, offering a range of options for housing and services to help elders transition into the next stage. Methodist Senior Services, celebration, innovation, and hope. And Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Mississippi, encouraging wellness through personal engagement and access to quality health care, because it's about you, your health, and your life. More information is available at bcbsms.com.
Hey, Jake.
Oh, hey, Mark.
What you doing here?
I made pizza.
You did make pizza, though that's not really pizza. I think I'm good, thank you, though. How many years have you been working together?
I mean, a few.
Okay, yeah, no tips and tricks. Have you picked up anything over those few years?
No, I've obviously learned a lot because I made homemade pizza. I'm a chef, just like you.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but props to you for making homemade pizza. You're experimenting, that's what counts, all right? How about this? I'll make you real homemade pizza, all right?
Okay.
I'll make 3 different kinds, and guess what? You get one of every kind, and whichever one's your favorite, you can take home the whole recipe and the whole pizza, okay?
Okay, all right.
You like that?
Can I finish this first?
Here, I'll take that.
What?
Sorry, Jake. Patience will be rewarded. Just remember that, okay?
Okay, but
Let's go ahead and get behind the camera.
But
No, it's okay.
okay.
Come on, let's go. Good boy. Oh wow, that's amazing. All right, Jake, you know how I told you I was gonna make pizza? All right, I'm gonna make pizza, but I'm gonna bring in my extra super firepower, my dad.
Hello, Mark.
Hey, Dad.
Did you clean your room before we came?
I was asleep before we came, so no.
We'll talk off camera. All right, pizza. So you busted Jake in the kitchen, is that what I understand?
Yep, Jake was eating homemade pizza. It was not homemade.
Bless his heart.
Yeah, poor little Jake.
So one of the things we do as a family is we make pizza almost every Saturday night, something we've done for years and years and years. And so Mark and I had been on the quest for the perfect pizza dough. We've done a variety of versions of this. This is a base dough, but let's talk about pizza first.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we do here in America is not a whole lot like what the original pizza was.
It's not really pizza at all.
We've kind of Americanized it.
Yeah.
So we kind of divide it here into thick, thin, hand-tossed, pan, a variety of crusts. I kind of classify pizza into 3 different schools. You've got the New York City school, which
is very thin, pretty big.
Thin. It's a bigger dough, bigger
and you
pie.
can fold it.
Fold it and eat it. You get it off of a street corner at a vendor. Great stuff.
Very New York.
Very, very New York. Then you've got Chicago-style pizza, which is almost like a casserole. Deep dish. It's a different type of dough. You put the toppings on bottom, then you put sauce on top.
It's really good, guys. It's really good.
Then you've got all kinds of regional variations, like a St. Louis style pizza, which is a thin cracker crust, about yay big around, and they use a mixture of what they call Provel cheese, which is mozzarella, provolone, and they cut it into a square cut. Very different than Chicago or New York. This recipe here is very simple, guys. This is just a general all-around easy. So pizza is really at its heart just 4 ingredients.
Exactly.
Water, yeast, salt, and flour. Now we've got extra virgin olive oil and we've got brown sugar. Those are flavor enhancers.
Exactly.
You can make pizza with these guys. So let's walk through here. We have spring water, a 1.5 cups of spring water. Talk to me about temperature.
So this I like to be about 100 to 110 degrees. It's a perfect temperature for yeast. So about yeast. Right here we're using active dry yeast. What that means is it's kind of like me. It's asleep, but you have to put warm water to wake it up.
That happens during summer break quite a bit.
For this piece of dough, we're gonna make it with active dry yeast, but we're gonna show you how to make instant yeast later.
What's this?
That's kosher salt.
And?
bread flour. Bread flour is very important. It has a higher protein content than AP flour or all-purpose flour or pastry flour.
All right, these next two things are?
Extra virgin olive oil. So you don't have to use extra virgin olive oil. We like it. It gives a little more flavor profile to it, which again, it's exactly what it's here for. Enhance the flavor and the texture. And then brown sugar.
Okay, Mark, you ready to make some dough?
I'm ready to make some dough. I'm out of it actually.
Yeah, no allowance for you. Maybe if you cleaned your room.
Maybe
All right.
so.
So first, we're gonna put in our water.
Right here, and this, if I can open it, is 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast.
So when you see recipes call for 2 1/4 teaspoons, it's often 1 packet of yeast.
Often 1 packet, exactly.
All right, so now you can see our yeast is starting to wake up. You're seeing bubbles form, and that's the warm water and the yeast starting to activate.
It's waking up like me in the morning.
Yeah, except this is a little bit more graceful. Also, yeast feeds off sugar and it makes two things. It makes CO2, it makes alcohol. We're not worried about the alcohol, at least I'm not, and you shouldn't be either. Yeast is going to provide CO2, which is going to kind of leaven the bread. That's what makes it nice and doughy and makes a great crust.
Next up, brown sugar right here. This is about a tablespoon or so, right?
It's actually 2 tablespoons of brown sugar.
You can just let it sit for 5 to 10 minutes until it's really nice, frothy, and bubbly. And you'll know what it looks like because it's a completely different sight 5 minutes from now.
All right, so the yeast has been doing its magic for a few minutes. So I'm gonna drop this bowl back down, and now I'm gonna put in our flour. So we have the dough hook on this. And so with the dough hook, it's going to mix and it's going to start a knead.
Knead. Yeah, kneading is when you form gluten.
All right, so now I'm going to put my salt in.
So right now we're just going to wait for the dough to come into a rough ball. Then we're going to slowly add in the olive oil. Helps if you're taller too, because I kind of have to lean over like this. Now it's time to drizzle in the olive oil. This is 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I added just a little bit extra because, as you can see, some of it stays to the bottom. So you get solid 2 tablespoons in, you add extra.
So the dough is somewhat wet. So I'm gonna get a spatula and I'm gonna take these dry ingredients down and get it into the dough. Now I'm gonna turn the mixer up faster. And what I'm looking for is consistency in the dough. I'm looking for it not to be too wet, not to be too dry. As you can see, what's happening is the hook is pulling the flour from the sides and mixing it in, and a ball is starting to form. All right, so Mark, this dough still looks wet. So here's what I've got. I've got a little extra bread flour. So we're just gonna take about 1/3 of a cup and sprinkle across the top, and then come back.
So my saying whenever adding in extra flour is if it looks perfect in the bowl, it's gonna be dry on the surface. When you roll out the dough, you have to put flour down so it doesn't stick. So if it's perfect in the bowl, more flour will be added in, it'll get dried out. So you want it a little wet.
And you can always add more flour in. You can't really add more wetness in. That looks pretty good. It looks a little wet, and it's pulling into a ball. Let's take the dough hook up.
So now this stage is called kneading. We're trying to work in dough onto itself is creating gluten.
All right, Mark, that's about ready. You see how it's forming into a dough ball?
The sides are pulling away.
The sides are pulling away. So pretty good with that.
So now we're going to the resting phase. So right now we're just gonna clean all the dough off the hook. Yeah, it's wet, looks beautiful. What I like to do, I like to form a rough little ball. I like to scrape off a little bit that's left on the side, just fold it onto itself.
All right, need a little bit more flour because at the end of the day, when we're forming our pizza crust, you want it to be that right consistency. Now that we've got it off the mixing bowl and we're kind of doing a manual knead here, and you cannot make dough without getting your hands dirty.
I mean, look at that, stuck to my hands. I don't mind.
All right, Mark, that looks pretty good. Why don't you give me a little bit more flour
All right,
and make a ball.
make a ball. All right, so fold it from the bottom. I don't know if you can see, but I'm just pulling it onto itself, like that. There you go.
So you're trying to get a pretty smooth surface up here. This dough's still a little bit wet, but it's gonna be fine. I think the secret to great pizza dough is in the rise stage.
Exactly.
We like a cold rise. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take a dish towel, we're gonna wet that dish towel, put it on top, and we're gonna put this into the refrigerator. It's best if you let it sit overnight. 6 hours is fine. The longer the better because that allows the yeast to release CO2.
And it also matures the dough, as I like to say. It gives it a deeper, You know, more beer-like flavor.
So I've moistened this towel. We're gonna put this towel on top. And the reason it's moist is we want this to stay rather humid in here so that the dough doesn't dry out. All right, so let's put this in the fridge and we will clean up and we'll go to dough number 2.
Awesome. That is good dough.
So this is one of our favorite dough recipes. We've taken that basic dough that we just made and we're augmenting it a little bit. Instead of water, we're putting in beer. So this is a beer from Lazy Magnolia, which is a brewery here in Mississippi. This is their flagship brew, which is called Southern Pecan. It's a little sweet, it's a little malty. Instead of water, we're gonna use a bottle of beer for our dough. Now let's talk about yeast.
So the yeast is instant yeast, and so contrary to active dry yeast, they're all awake in there. There's no proofing or marinating. Instant yeast and just yeast in general loves beer because it's a very sugary substance and it has yeast in it or it had yeast in it.
Kosher salt. We've got flour. What type of flour?
Bread flour, again, higher protein content, which makes better gluten, which again, better mouthfeel equals better pizza.
Extra virgin olive oil. And then we've got brown sugar as well, but let's talk about this, Mark.
So molasses is a form of sugar cane. It is after you extract the sugar, the dried sugar, the white sugar, you keep boiling down the remaining liquid and then you get molasses. So it's deep, it's a deep black color and look how slow it pours. All right.
Slow as?
Slow as molasses in Christmas.
All right, let's start making dough.
Exactly, so same process except we're not heating up the beer.
So we have the beer, and as you can see, the beer is already frothy, and that really plays really well with the instant yeast. All right, and we're gonna add in, this is 3 cups of flour. Boy, this is a completely different smell than the original dough because of the hoppy malt flavor of the beer.
Salt added in, and
Let's go ahead and put in the olive oil.
molasses. You add this in and tell them how much you're gonna add.
So I'm just gonna kind of pour some molasses in.
So you like about a tablespoon or so?
Yeah, I kind of eyeball it. And let's go ahead and put in the sugar. And look, you can see the bubbling as the yeast is getting activated, so it's kicking off a ton of CO2. And let's start our dough hook.
Again, you don't even have to let it rise for 5 minutes. Just go straight into it. Simple as that, and that's why I really do like making dough with instant yeast.
All right, so it's mixing in, and we're looking for the same thing as we do with the other dough. We want the dry ingredients to pull into the middle and to form a ball. One of the things you can see here is this is going to be a darker dough. So the darkness is coming from the molasses, from the brown sugar, and also from the beer. Now this dough is a little stickier because of the molasses, and we've got a little less liquid in it. All right, so Mark, take a look at this. See how it's pulling in? This is a little bit drier than the other dough, but this is about the consistency I want.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's about time to scrape down and put it in the fridge. Dish towel, we're gonna pull over, and let's put it in the fridge.
Fridge.
Boom.
For our final pizza, we're gonna do a Chicago-style deep dish.
So the Chicago-style deep dish is quite a bit different than the previous recipe we did. We've got water, we've got yeast, we've got sugar, we've got all-purpose flour, half a cup of cornmeal, salt, and then canola oil. All right, so why don't you do it this time?
Same thing as usual. We got the bloom the yeast this time because we're using active dry yeast. I'm gonna go ahead and add the sugar.
Go ahead, let's put the sugar in.
Yep.
All right, it's bloomed, so why don't you put in the dough?
Try not to drop
Well,
this
it's
in.
not dough yet, this is flour. It'll be dough eventually. This is 3.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Yeah, let's put in the cornmeal. And let's go ahead and put our sugar in.
Salt.
Salt, sugar, white granulated thing.
Yeah.
So now we've done everything except the
Canola oil.
canola nut olive. So let's go ahead, let's put this together. So you can see that this is not as smooth of a texture. It's a lot like a biscuit dough.
It really is.
Very, very similar. And different establishments in Chicago have a different variation on this, but this is kind of a middle of the line Chicago style dough. All right, this looks great. Slowly drizzle right in here. It looks great. We're gonna take it down. We're going to put a little bit of flour on it.
Okay.
And we're gonna cover it and put it in the fridge. Now, this recipe calls for a 24-hour refrigeration.
Okay.
I said, let's get this covered, let's get it in the fridge, and let's make some sauce. We have made 3 doughs. So what do we need next?
Sauce. We always need sauce.
Very simple, very easy sauce. So what this is crushed canned tomatoes. It's a 32-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, which I think makes the best sauce base out there.
2 teaspoons of oregano.
There you go.
And then a teaspoon from here on out of basil, thyme, ground thyme, garlic powder, white pepper because
we like white pepper.
yeah, it's a little spicier. Salt to taste and sugar to taste.
Start dumping in.
Just dump them in.
All right, let's get all this mixed in. And I've got some tasting spoons over here. We can go ahead and do a straight taste with this.
Salt.
Definitely need salt. You need to be pretty aggressive with that salt.
Let's get in there.
More salt?
Definitely more salt.
Definitely more salt. A little bit more oregano?
Yeah. Yeah, this is definitely coming through. Same thing, you know, with making sauces everywhere, it's about taste. You gotta taste and adjust.
What do you think?
That made it.
If you let this refrigerate for a little bit, the flavors will build. So if you wanted to make this the night before, cover it,
Exactly.
and it would meld and be better. So let's, when we put this in the fridge, and let's reset, and let's get to making pizza.
Awesome.
Mark, here is our first dough. This is the non-beer dough, so this is the sober dough.
This is the classic.
We've rolled it out a little bit, and you are going to pull that out. This is just a baking tray. I put a little flour on. And so now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this, and I'm just gonna kind of roll over and make little dough balls. We're gonna let these things rest just for a minute,
Okay.
and then we are going to get our peel, and we're gonna make some pizzas.
Finally.
These have rested for about 10 minutes, which is great. First, we're gonna take our cornmeal,
Okay, I'm gonna start.
and we're gonna put our cornmeal all over here. And what that does, it provides a non-stick surface on the peel. So what we're gonna do is come here, and this is still a little wet on top. So now is when we want the pizza dough not to be as wet.
We're stretching it basically.
So you can see how this is starting to form these windows. It's a beautiful dough.
It really is. So this is the point in time where a lot of folks, including us, we've done this before. We use a little hand roller, and so he betrayed.
I did. Makes it kind of an even thickness and distributes across so you don't get tearing nearly as much. But I'm letting the weight of the dough pull it down. Here is, I think, one of the most important steps is you roll that, you see how that dough is moving?
It's sliding easily, and so that means when we put it on the stone, easy.
That looks absolutely gorgeous. So let's
Finally, we're
put
making
this
pizza.
sauce on.
I'm so ready for this.
One good thing about this sauce that we're putting on is that it's great for Chicago style and it's great for this New York style.
So what do you want to have on this pizza?
Let's do a little bit of pep.
Okay.
So let's go a little thin on the pepperoni because we're gonna have another meat. We've got some sweet Italian sausage, which will be
Okay.
great on the Chicago, but let's try it on this guy as well.
All right. Mushrooms.
We're gonna do mushrooms and let's do green peppers.
What I like to do, I like to tear it up into bite-sized pieces.
All right, that looks really gorgeous. Now,
Cheese.
let's cheese it up. Wait, we usually do that anyway with our pizza, don't we? All right, so let's take this over and let's see what we can do.
Let's go. Can I do it?
No. Boom. And you see how that slid off perfectly? Let's go ahead and close it. So we're gonna let that bake for 5 to 8 minutes depending on how hot the oven is, how hot the stone is. We wanna look for browning on the crust and we want a melted cheese and a little bit browning on the cheese. Oh, Mark,
That looks beautiful.
looks amazing.
Oh, stick it in the back. That happens a little bit. I like to go up underneath there, dislodge it. There we go.
Lift it up.
Now, Jake, does that look like it was worth the wait? Awesome.
All right, so 1 down, 2 to go.
All right, let's get cooking.
Beer pizza time. So let's
go.
do the beer dough. Again, we're throwing down cornmeal.
What are you thinking on this one?
So let's just go veggie only on this.
Veggie only, okay.
Yeah, I think this will be great. Let's check and see. We've got a great wiggle there.
There we go.
All right, I'm gonna put some in the middle,
Big clump of it,
a big clump of it.
and then I'll spread it out.
All right, let's go ahead and spread.
Pizza really does go faster if you have a tag team effort.
So I think we put down some mushrooms and some green peppers. Tell you what, let's do sliced cheeses on
Okay.
this. Let's make this one just a little bit different. And we want the smaller slices. All right, you ready? Let's put it in. Okay, let's go.
There we go. Ooh. Look at that.
Gorgeous.
Cheese still bubbling. Mmm. Nice crispy crust. Supreme.
That's 2.
2. 1 more to go.
Let's head to Chicago.
I can't wait.
The moment of truth, Chicago style pizza build. So we've already got our oven going at 450. We got our dough out about an hour ago, let it come to room temp.
Beautiful.
And this is our Chicago style deep dish. I've already put some oil in it that will spread around.
Promotes browning too.
It does. And so now
We're gonna use all of that.
we're gonna use all that. I'm gonna put a little flour in here.
So walk me through the process of building a Chicago style deep dish.
So it's an invert from a
Okay.
traditional pizza. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna put down this right here and we're gonna roll it out. Get it out to the edges. A good practice is to roll, to rotate around and kind of push out. And if the dough keeps springing back, just let it rest for a second. And you want to get this dough up on the edge. You're going to go for an inverted build. So
Cheese
let's put
first?
some cheese down. So this is mozzarella. When it melts, you want it to be a consistent layer. So you want to get on out to the sides there, but you don't want to overdo it. All right.
What's next?
Sweet Italian sausage. So to me, this is the essential ingredient. Sweet Italian sausage, by its very name, it's a little bit sweeter. It's got a great flavor profile, and it's very complementary to the sauce.
Doesn't really have that much of a kick as
No,
a lot
no.
of breakfast sausages do.
All right, so once you layer out pepperoni around,
Pepperoni, okay.
now a traditional Chicago-style pizza is usually going to be pepperoni, sweet Italian sausage, and green peppers. Now you can fill out with anything that you want. I really like this double meat style.
Yeah, I'm not too much for vegetation on my pizza.
So now we take that full 32 ounces of sauce, and so what we do is we just go ahead and we dribble in. So now you want to spread that sauce out as far as you can go. All right, so that's it. That is the
Beautiful.
pizza.
Beautiful.
Ready to go in a 450-degree oven
How long?
for about 30 minutes. You're gonna wait till it browns out. You don't have any cheese on top to melt to indicate, so really you kind of need to go by time on this one. So 30 to 35. All right, Mark, here we go.
Oh wow, that looks amazing. Oh, that's hot.
Wow, Mark, does that not look amazing?
I mean, I'm in heaven just looking at it.
A couple of things. See how the crust is separated away from the pan?
It has nice crispy on
It's
top.
a nice crispy crust. You've got kind of a drying of the sauce as it's cooked. You see a little bit of cheese coming through. So we're gonna let this thing set for about 30 minutes and let it cool down. Otherwise, it is a molten lava pizza
Yeah.
volcano.
I don't know if I can keep myself away from that for 30 minutes. So get out of my sight. I'm turning around. I'm so hungry.
Voila, 3 pizzas.
Couldn't say it better. I mean, I'm ready to dig in. You know, a lot of people, we have me, you, Jake, and Jonathan, but we don't really have an expert opinion.
You know who we need to get?
Jay.
We need to get Jay.
My good friend Jay Reed is here. He's a local food critic for a local magazine, and he's here to review my pizza. Thanks for coming.
Hey, you said pizza, so I'm here.
Yeah, me too. I love pizza. So I'm gonna give you the basic rundown. Right here we have our classic crust. Over here is our beer pizza. This one right here is Chicago style pizza. You ready to eat?
I'm ready.
All right.
Which one are we doing first?
I'm gonna go with a classic first, just to get a base layer. Gotcha.
Yeah, no complaints, no complaints.
So beer dough. This one also has a little bit of molasses and brown sugar, so it's a little darker. I definitely like that one better. Much darker, much richer.
There's a lot more personality in the crust.
Exactly. This last one is Chicago style. Again, made with cornmeal, all-purpose flour compared to bread flour, and canola oil.
My first Chicago style in Mississippi.
That's something. So,
That's great.
So, out of all these pizzas, which one would you say is your favorite?
Of these three, I'm gonna have to go with the middle one, but it's a tough one because this is unique and it's new to me, and it just has I don't know, just flipping it over makes a big difference. And maybe it's a sweet Italian sausage.
Yeah.
There's something sweet there, but I think the beer and the molasses in that, it really comes out in the crust. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I would eat this one all day long still though.
Yeah,
There's no
I
question.
understand. Well, thank you for coming. I'm really glad you enjoyed the pizza.
I love pizza and I appreciate you letting me have at it here.
No problem. You know that old saying, make pizza and they'll come? Well, so far, I only see one person. That's bound to change. Thank y'all for watching and keep on cooking. Hey y'all, I hope you liked it. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe and turn on the little notification bell right by the subscribe button. Thank y'all for watching. I'll see you next time.